Don't you have to hit live?
We're live.
Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm your host for the NFL Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host. First up, from the FF Face-Off, Anthony Cervino. How you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you?
All right. And, of course, our beat writer, one of our NFL beat writers at the Grueling Truth, Sam Teets. How's it going, Sam?
It's going well, Mike.
All right, let's just start off with the big question of the day. Anthony, what are the Packers doing?
You know, you can make the case that they're getting Aaron Rodgers as heir apparent, but Aaron Rodgers came out and said in 15 years you haven't drafted a skill position offensive player, and that's basically his whole tenure. They're nowhere closer. With the Jordan Love pick, they're nowhere closer to the 49ers. And their biggest offseason addition was Devin Funchess, who did not play at all last year and is a number 2 at best. So I can see why Aaron Rodgers is going to be disgruntled about this.
All right, Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, I understand the idea they were trying to go for in finding the eventual replacement for Aaron Rodgers. So they drafted Rodgers when Brett Favre was 35, Aaron Rodgers is 36 now, and they drafted Jordan Love. They made several mistakes. One, they drafted the wrong quarterback. I don't think Jordan Love's going to be successful in the NFL. And two, you're a team that just went to the NFC Championship game. You need those skill position players because your best receiver, Devontae Adams, missed 4 games last year. So you had no 1,000-yard receivers on your team. Your second best receiver was Alan Lazard, who was an undrafted free agent last year, and he finished with 477 receiving yards. You had one player with over 500 receiving yards on your entire team. So if you're the Green Bay Packers and you went to the NFC Championship game and you're sitting in the first round with guys like T. Higgins and Shenault on the board, and you take a quarterback who's going to be a backup for at least the next 2 years or probably the next 4 years, it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't agree with it. It doesn't help you win now.
Yeah, because I think the problem you have is this. I mean, 10, 15 years ago, a lot of teams would draft a quarterback and figure they could sit him for a couple of years. Jordan Love, I mean, you got to sit him for 4 or 5 years probably because barring injury, Aaron Rodgers is not 40 years old the way Brett Favre pretty much was when they drafted Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. Plus, Aaron Rodgers was a guy that a lot of people thought was a top 10 pick who actually dropped to the 24-25 area, where Jordan Love is a guy that people are debating whether he should even be a first-round quarterback, Sam.
Yeah, that's my issues. Aaron Rodgers was the guy, remember, that kept the camera on him when he was in the green room because he kept falling and dropping. It was kind of awkward for him. Jordan Love, like I said, he wasn't guaranteed to go in the first round at all. I mean, it wasn't a guarantee. People thought he could fall the second round. I thought he was probably at most a late second round quarterback in terms of potential as a prospect. And he's got serious issues too. Like, this is a guy who won't be ready to go in 2 years. I don't know if he'll ever be ready to go as a starting quarterback in the NFL. I mean, we could be looking at like a Paxton Lynch situation where you draft a guy and you try to eventually put him in and he just never shows up.
Yeah, I think that's what we're going to get here, Anthony. But the biggest problem here is, as you brought up earlier, they've done nothing to close the gap with teams like the Seahawks, the 49ers. You got the Cardinals who are jumping up now, and we'll talk about them in a little bit, who have added playmakers on both sides of the ball. So the Packers, with this move for the foreseeable near future, which would be this season, have not really improved at all, while the other teams are improving, and that gap's just going to widen.
You know, the 2 issues that Green Bay had against San Francisco last year was stopping the run and putting points on the board. You could have gotten a Ross Blacklock, an interior defensive lineman. I believe when you moved up, you could have gotten a Patrick Queen to help their linebacking core. You could have got a receiver. And the Packers chose to look ahead towards the future with the project pick.
Yeah, and it makes no sense, and it just causes a lot of angst, I would think, with Aaron Rodgers. And the thing is this, the GM in Green Bay said that he hadn't even spoke to Rodgers after this pick. This seems like a pick that if you've got a guy like Rodgers who's been there forever, you have enough respect for him where before you even make the pick, you'd let him know so he's not finding out on Twitter or by watching ESPN.
When you have to think now that this is how it played out, there's going to be some issues here. Like, they're going to have to talk at some point, and Rodgers is not going to be happy. Because he made it quite clear he wanted skill position guys. He wanted someone to help him out on the offensive side of the ball, and they did not give him that. And here's the two-time MVP and a former Super Bowl champion now, who you have drafted the replacement for without consulting him at any time, and you have basically ignored his request to get some skill position players around him.
Are we actually surprised that Green Bay picked Jordan Love? Because leading up to the draft, there was always that rumor floating around that the Packers could take a quarterback if one's there at the end of the first. So, yes, it's surprising that they took one, but in the same breath, it's not that surprising. Whether it's not right, I don't think it's right, but it doesn't really shock me. I said it leading up. I forgot who was on the clock. That Green Bay or New Orleans was going to take Jordan Love.
Well, the thing is this. Green Bay has screwed up drafts for years, which is why Aaron Rodgers can probably never enter into the conversation with the Bradys and the Montanas, and it's not necessarily his fault. It's the fault of the front office who has constantly missed, and they don't give him the weapons he needs. They don't upgrade the offensive line when they should. The defense, it seems like whatever they need to do, they do the opposite year in and year out. And the only thing that is consistent here and keeps them in the running is the fact that Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback, Sam.
I mean, really, we've talked about years where he's been the guy carrying that entire team. There have been years where they don't have a running back. They had Aaron Jones last year, who had a pretty solid year. But before that, they really didn't have a running game. It was really just Aaron Rodgers doing what he did on offense. And he probably made some of the receivers in Green Bay look better than they actually were. So he's been a guy who's been uplifting that whole team. They haven't had defense in the past. They have some players there now, but not play a complete unit yet. So if you're Rodgers, you gotta be kidding me at this point. I've done all this for the franchise, and now you go out and do this to me without even informing me ahead of time. So if I was him, I'd be pissed. I mean, I'd be pissed.
And yet, Love is the first skill position player taken by Green Bay in the first round since Aaron Rodgers, 2005.
Damn, that's a long time. And especially considering they've really had a dominant defense. Let's stay in the NFC North, Anthony. Detroit Lions, Jeff Okudah. What do you think of that pick?
Too early. If you're going to take a cornerback in the top three, it should be somebody with the ceiling of Deion Sanders, with the ceiling of maybe a Champ Bailey or a Charles Woodson. I just don't see it with Okudah. Am I off to say that?
Oh, Mike's gone. But responding to what you said there, Anthony, I don't think you're off to say that because I think Okudah is a very raw prospect who's not very polished at the moment. So, man, we talked about CJ Henderson might be a better coverage player right now, and Okudah's got the more physically gifted player who would get there at some point. But right now, there is that difference in those players. I do agree with you. I think taking Okudah at 3, I understand why I did. They want to get a replacement for Darius Slay, but at the same point, he's a raw prospect. And whenever you take a raw prospect like that and base his draft stock on potential, there's always a chance for him to turn to a bust.
I just, if you're Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia and your jobs are on the line because they are, is Okudah that player that's going to help you keep your job?
Well, I don't think so because
I can say is this winning guy who can play. Derek Brown, I think, would have been the better pick here.
Yeah, I think you needed to make a move that would stand out a little bit longer. You have a player that would make more of an immediate impact. I think Okudah's a guy who can do that, but maybe like 4 years from now, not necessarily right now. I think you put Derek Brown in there and he immediately makes an impact. I think you put Isaiah Simmons in there and he immediately makes an impact. So for me, comparing those two to Okudah, I think Okudah's more of the project player between the three of them.
Yeah, and I think the Isaiah Simmons would have been the correct pick here. I think Derek Brown would have been my second choice, but I still say this, the way I said on the show yesterday or the day before yesterday, Isaiah Simmons is a guy that Matt Patricia is supposed to be a great defensive coordinator. He worked under Bill Belichick. If there's anybody that would know how to use this player and his unique abilities, it should be Matt Patricia. So it really worries me here that Matt Patricia is going to go with the corner who, even if he's a great corner, he doesn't have the impact that Isaiah Simmons, if used correctly, could have.
Well, on top of that, there's no guarantee he'll even be as good as Darius Slay was. So you might be replacing Slay with an even lower level cornerback. So you might actually be getting worse through this whole draft process through this offseason instead of actually improving.
Yeah. We skipped over the Redskins with Chase Young. I think we all agree that Chase Young is worth a shot, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's not the most shocking news in the draft because I think a lot of people thought that's where he was going to go. I think people are trying to project where he'll be at the next level. I do think he's a little bit smaller than Nick Bosa in terms of strength. I think Bosa is maybe a little bit more effective at shedding blocks right now and getting around guys. I think he's got a little more refinement in terms of his moveset. But I think teams are hoping that Chase Young will be the next guy. I don't know if he is or not, but I think that's what Washington's hoping for.
Anthony?
Yeah, some believe that Chase Young, and I think we talked about this yesterday at the top of the show, his ceiling is Hall of Fame potential. His former teammates are saying, yeah, he's better than me. I know you came out and said that this is just what these athletes do. But the Washington Redskins, they're going to build this defense and continue to build it. I think he's the 5th or 6th first-round pick in that front seven, very similar to the San Francisco 49ers. And I think he's going to help this defense out a lot. I don't hate the pick. It's not a sexy pick. It's a Ron Rivera pick.
All right, let's move on to the Giants. Andrew Thomas. This is another case where I would have taken Isaiah Simmons, but I think Andrew Thomas is a great pick. I think he's safe. I think you'll see him start at right tackle this year, and I think over the next couple of years transition to playing left tackle. So I think Dave Gettleman hit it out of the park on this because this is a solid pick where I think there's very little chance that it's going to end up being a bust, Sam.
Well, yeah, after last year when they took Daniel Jones and they went out and got DeAndre Baker too, after taking those guys, I think you need to have that safe pick necessarily because you don't need to take a risk here and then have it all fall apart on you. So taking a safe player who's going to be there for Daniel Jones for the next decade and for Saquon Barkley as well is probably a smart move. I think we've talked about this yesterday. Andrew Thomas is probably the best tackle in the draft. So getting him, get the best tackle, he can play right tackle and he can play left tackle. Is that versatile? He moves very well. So taking him, probably the smart move, even if it's not the sexy pick.
Anthony?
I think the Giants got a lot better with Andrew Thomas. He can play both sides, right and left tackle. He only allowed 5 sacks in 41 games, over 1,000 snaps in his collegiate career with Georgia. You guys said it. He's the safest tackle in this draft. He may not have the highest ceiling, but the Giants got themselves a 10-year starter with Andrew Thomas. And with that offense and all the pieces that are on that offense, to upgrade that line was a smart pick by David Gettleman.
All right, next, let's go to Tua Tagovailoa with the Miami Dolphins. This is a pick where I think Tua is a special player, but the more I look at this and the more I look at the medicals, you can't ignore the medicals. I think he's a little undersized. I think he's shown to be brittle. I think in the end, this pick's going to bite Miami in the butt, but I understand why they took that chance. But I think there's a lot of bad things. There's more bad things that can happen here than good, Anthony.
You know, I said this last night that Miami can go safe and go with a guy like Herbert, or they're going to try to hit the home run with Tua because they haven't had that type of a quarterback since Dan Marino. And sure, that's where Tua's ceiling is. But you really have to start putting protection around him. I would get a reliable running back who could pick up pass protection. They drafted a left tackle. They need to upgrade this line and play better because you don't know what hit could potentially re-aggravate that hip injury. And Tua has a lot more injuries than just that hip that he's played through.
Yeah, and people ignore that. I just think the medicals are almost impossible to ignore here, no matter what you think of Tua as a player, Sam.
Yeah, the medicals are certainly starting to add up. But I think Miami's put in a situation where you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. So you take him and he ends up getting hurt. Well, then it's your job basically at the top point But if you don't take him and he ends up turning into an all-pro down the line, well, then why didn't you draft him at 5th overall? That's going to be a question you're going to have to answer. And I don't think Justin Herbert's that much better of an option, to be honest, because you take Herbert, I think you're going to have a decent quarterback, but not have a guy who's going to be a standout quarterback who's going to be able to lead you anywhere. So I think weighing the option between taking a guy like Herbert or taking a guy like Tua, who, if he's healthy, has the option to take you somewhere in the future, I think Tua is still probably a better shot than Herbert at working out long-term, even with the injuries.
Yeah, plus a lot higher ceiling, which we go to Chargers, who went with Justin Herbert at number 6. I still don't think this is going to work out. I think this is going to be similar to Mitch Trubisky because I see a lot of the same characteristics in these two players, Sam.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Herbert guy. I've talked about this throughout the process. I think there's 2 really good quarterbacks in this draft. It was Tua and it was Joe Burrow. And beyond that, it's kind of up in the air. I think if anyone who has a chance to stick around in the NFL for a while, Herbert's probably the next best guy. But again, I don't think he has a very high ceiling. If he goes out there, he's got weapons to play with, so maybe he'll look good. But I don't know if he has the chance to go out there and take them back to the playoffs. I don't think it's what's going to happen.
All right, Anthony, any comment on Herbert?
I think Tyrod is going to open the season as a starter. If I'm the Chargers, that's probably the way to go and see how far I can go with Tyrod. If he struggles, then I think you make the pivot to Justin Herbert. But if you can kind of treat this almost like a Mahomes, Alex Smith situation, where if you don't have to put Herbert on the field for a long time and really prep him for 2021, I think that would be the best thing for the Chargers to do.
Yeah, the only problem is that the same guys are not prepping these guys. So, and by that, I'm just talking about the private quarterback coach that Patrick Mahomes had, which it was one of the best ones. And I don't think that we've got the same thing there. The Cardinals, Isaiah Simmons. This is a guy that I watched the film this morning a little bit more. I think he's a safety in the NFL. I don't necessarily love this pick, but I think if he's used correctly, I think he could make a major impact right away, Anthony.
Yeah, I like Isaiah Simmons a lot. I think he fits well with Arizona. They're a team that put a lot of stake into their offense the past 2 seasons, and they really needed to rebuild the defense. If you take a look, they have players, Patrick Peterson, Budda Baker, Chandler Jones, Jordan Hicks. I think the versatile player like Isaiah Simmons, he's almost going to do or be utilized the way that they used to use a Tyrann Mathieu when he was in Arizona. So I think this is going to be a good pick. I think it's going to be an impactful pick. And the more I watch Isaiah Simmons highlights, he can literally do it all.
Yeah,
your
Sam,
defensive coordinator needs to be creative with this kid.
All right, Sam?
Yeah, I think I like Simmons as a linebacker. I can understand people saying he wants to play at safety, but at the same point, he's got the size to play linebacker that you want him there. He's 6'4", 238 pounds. I think he can definitely play at the linebacker spot. I can see him play safety too, and he can come down and cover the slot as well, and maybe be like a Cam Chancellor player almost. But I think you have to be very careful with him because you don't want to give him a defensive coordinator who's going to ruin him. I do think there's a chance because of that, because he doesn't really have a set position, that if you don't hit him in the right system, you don't use him the right way, there's a chance he gets off to a bad start and doesn't look so good in the first couple of years.
All right, let's jump to number 10. Cleveland Browns, Jedrick Wills, Alabama. What's your take on this one, Sam?
Well, you know, it's weird because it's better than Mekhi Becton in my mind. Mekhi Becton's a guy who uses his physical strength, and when you watch him play, it's all about his strength, not really his technique at all. I know you have concerns about Jedrick Wills as well, and you don't like him that much. But at the same point, if I look at Mekhi Becton, it's a similar situation where it's just raw power but no refinement, and I can't count on it to be refined. So if this is a guy who's going to go here, I'm okay with it going at 10. I think Tristan Wirfs might have still been a better option, but he kind of fell a little further down to 13. I expected Cleveland to take an offensive lineman. That wasn't a shock to me. I think they're just looking for that final piece of that offensive line to kind of fill in. Now they got Jack Conklin at right tackle.
Yeah, my concern here, Anthony, is Jedrick Wills, to me, has the body of a guard. I think they're going to have to play him at right tackle the first year or two and transition him to left. I don't know if the Browns will do that or if they'll just throw him to left tackle out of desperation. So I would think my biggest concern with Wills here may be the Cleveland Browns coaching staff.
I think you have to put Wills at left tackle because Conklin has played on the right side his whole career, no?
But the thing is this, Conklin is a veteran, and even though he's played right tackle, I would rather try to convert the veteran to left tackle than I would the guy, Jedrick Wills, who I don't know that has the body frame. I mean, when I look at him, to me, he looks like a guard to me. And there's questions there. We'll transition this to the Jets, too, with Mekhi Becton. Because Mekhi Becton is a guy that he's a freak athletically, but if I'm looking for an offensive tackle, I don't really care if you're a freak athletically or not. I care whether you can kick step and block somebody, and I care if you can drive off and block somebody. And the one thing that stands out to me to both Wills and Becton, to me, is they're guys that will pop the defender, get an initial hit, then the defender will bounce back, and then they'll sit there and wait. And then they'll pop him again. And the problem with that is in college, it'll work when you're the strongest guy on the field and you're going against a guy that's 225 pounds. But in the NFL, when you hit a guy and let him reset, he's going to come at you. He's going to rip you. He's going to swim you. He's going to spin you. He's going to do something to you more than what you see in college. And the thing about Wills and Becton is when you watch those highlight films, remember that they're highlight films. They're not showing you anything bad. But on these highlight films, especially edge rushers in college football, a lot of times those edge rushers are a safety or an undersized linebacker that maybe weigh 230 pounds. So it looks great that Becton and Wills can pop a guy with one hand and put him on their butt. But it's a concern that can they do that against somebody that's 275, 280 pounds using proper technique?
With the Jets and with the Browns, I think we knew the teams that were going to go after these left tackles. And after Thomas, who is the safest play, there's going to be risk in a lot of these picks. Becton is a player especially who moved up the draft board after setting that the 40 record for a player over 350 pounds. If you're the Browns, you knew they were going left tackle after all the issues they had last year. And if you're the Jets, I think they tried with Kalichi Osimile, or he might have been the guard last year, didn't even make it through 8 games. So these were need picks based on need. You just have to hope if you're either one of these teams that you hit, or at least completely bust.
Kalichi Osimile is a perfect example. That was a guy that was drafted to be a tackle, correct? And it never worked out because he plays. If you watch his highlight film in college, he looks like these guys. And the problem is this. When a guy is drafted because of what he did at the combine, that tells me that your scouting staff doesn't have a clue what in the hell they're doing. Because I don't care how – I've never seen – when does my right tackle – when do I care if he can run a 40-yard dash? I care if he can kick step a step or two and block somebody who's big, fast, and strong. Running a 40, yeah, if we're going to have, over 300-pound track team, then I'll look at that.
Yeah, the combine doesn't really do much especially for guys like offensive linemen. For them, it's the technique that really matters. So putting them in shorts and having them run against air, it really doesn't tell you much new. You could say, oh, well, that's super athletic, but if you have no technique, like Mekhi Becton, no technique at all, bad balance. Basically, he was beating up on guys who were half his size in college, so you really can't tell what he's going to do at the pro level yet. And from what I've seen, I wouldn't project him to be a great player in the NFL right now.
Well, the thing that really concerns me with Becton is if you watch his hand placement. He has a tendency to put his hands out wide, which if your hands are out wide, somebody bull rushes you here, there's nothing you can do about that. You want a guy that's got his hands up inside blocking, not like this. Because like this, also, when you're that wide, it gives up your elbow. And as a defensive line coach, you're always teaching your defensive linemen to attack either the wrist, the elbow, or the shoulder. And when you've got your arm turned like that to block somebody, they can take that shoulder easy. And these are big guys that are just going to bust you up and run right by you. Becton will be a complete and utter bust. I have some hope for Wills. Number 12, the Raiders, Henry Ruggs. I think this is what we always see with the Raiders. And this is the point of why the Raiders have sucked for so long, because they fall in love with what happens at the combine. Oh, that guy's really fast. Now, I think Ruggs is a good receiver. I think there was better receivers here, and I think there's things that the Raiders needed a lot more than a blow the top off the defense wide receiver, Anthony.
I understand the pick when you're playing in the same division of a Tyreek Hill and you see the way he changed the offense for Kansas City and their philosophy. I completely get it, but I don't know if Ruggs was the player for Oakland. If you're going to go receiver, go after Lamb, go after Judy, go after the players that can do a little bit of everything, can run better routes. Ruggs is that complement player to me. He's not a true number one. Ruggs would have worked. Maybe, I'll keep saying maybe the Denver Broncos with Cortland Sutton, but they really won getting Judy.
Well, how about this, though? If you're playing in the AFC West against Mahomes, why do you want to be like them? I would say the way to beat them is to have a running game that is extremely good to control the clock. They've already got a big-time running back in Josh Jacobs. So why would you not maybe take an offensive lineman here? Because you've got to load up to beat them, and you're not going to beat them at their own game, because even if you've got Henry Ruggs, and even if he's like Tyreek Hill, you still don't have the other skill position players that they have to complement them. So if Tyreek Hill is on a team like the Raiders and he's the main guy, they're just going to double team him and take him away. You can't do that with the Chiefs because you've got a slot who can run the seam. You've got a tight end who can run wherever, and it really limits your ability to double team Tyreek Hill, which you don't have with them, Sam.
Yeah, I think this is just a drop in the bucket for Oakland. They need to get something much better than this, I think. I do understand why Tyreek Hill went there. It's because of the flashiness. They liked having the speed receivers. So that's the way they think the NFL is trending. So they went for the speed guy. I don't think that's a smart pick. I mean, honestly, why would you take him over a guy who's a complete player like a CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy? Even a Justin Jefferson, in my mind, could be a better receiver long term because he's a more complete player.
I think T. Higgins is better.
Thank you. I'm surprised Higgins is still on the board too. I'm upset by that, but I think Higgins is a more complete player. I think people go after his route running. Yeah, he needs to clean that up a little bit, but I think Higgins can do more for you than someone like Henry Ruggs.
Yeah. Let's move on. Tristan Wirfs from Iowa goes to the Bucs. The Bucs trade up. I think it's safe to say that the Bucs are all in for this year. I think Wirfs is more of a guard in the NFL, but I think that with what the Bucs have on the offensive line, he can also play tackle. I think this is a great pick, Sam.
Yeah, because you get a versatile player who can play right or left tackle and can kick into play guard. He's got the body of a guard too, I think is what we were looking at. But he can really play whenever. And even if he is like a guard, not really a great tackle, he's still probably better than the tackle they have on the roster right now. So you might as well play him in there for now. And you can move him around if you have to. I think this is a good move for them because it solidifies their biggest need at the moment. And now they can focus on fixing the secondary, maybe getting a running back in day 2 and 3.
All right. Anthony, any take on him?
I like the pick for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They could have went with a luxury pick, like adding a third wide receiver on that team for Tom Brady. Instead, they wanted to upgrade Pro Football Focus's 7th best graded offensive line, mostly because of their interior, and put a young left tackle outside to protect Tom Brady. Very smart pick for Tampa Bay, and I think they're going to continue to try to make some moves in this draft. I don't think they're done yet. All
right, next up. That trade ended up dropping the 49ers down to where they took Javon Kinlaw. Basically, they're trading out Javon Kinlaw for DeForest Buckner, right, which I think is going to be a drop-off. I think the big problem with Kinlaw here is multiple injuries during his career. The other thing I don't like about Kinlaw is this. If he's one-on-one with a guy, he's really good. But he doesn't play well in traffic. He doesn't use his hands real well. Not a lot of moves. He is basically a guy that's going to line up and bull rush you, or just try to rip you and get around you. I don't think there's a lot of nuance to his game. I don't think he's necessarily a bad pick, but I don't think there's any way he gets to be what DeForest Buckner is, Sam.
DeForest Buckner is exceptional. He's a guy who can play the run and pass rush. I don't think Kinlaw is going to be that right away. If he stays healthy, I'm hoping that he can develop over the next 2 or 3 years and add some moves to his game. I think he projects out well in 3 to 4 years. But again, if you're the 49ers, you don't really need a guy who projects well in 3 to 4 years. You want to win now. I mean, your time to win is this window. So getting rid of Buckner and taking Javon Kinlaw is going to be a step down. And that's something you have to figure out how you play around that this coming season.
Listen, it's going to be a step down, but it's also a big step down of what you have to pay them. Because Buckner was due a contract. The Colts gave him a big-time contract. The 49ers can't pay everybody, and they're eventually going to have to pay a lot of these players, especially on defense. So they basically moved Buckner, and they're trying to replicate his talent with the rookie. We're not going to expect Buckner production in year one, but I think it's a smart move organizationally long-term for the 49ers.
Actually, I think the smart move here would have been CeeDee Lamb. I think that would have made their offense infinitely better. And I know they're trying to win with defense, but you got to score points to win. Jerry Jeudy, Broncos. What do you think, Sam or Anthony?
I love the pick. I don't know if Denver foreseen Jerry Jeudy being there, and we'll get to Dallas later with CeeDee Lamb, but with Ruggs going off the board first, Denver had their pick at wide receiver, and Jeudy, they say, is the best route runner in this draft, has some issues with drops here and there compared to Amari Cooper. I saw pre-draft yesterday, but with Cortland Sutton as your bona fide number one, Judy's not a bad compliment. This could have the upside of almost a Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones type duo of Drew Lock is the real deal.
I think when I watch Jerry Jeudy, my question is when those drop passes happen. Most of those drop passes happen when he was getting press coverage. And the thing about Jeudy is I don't know if he's strong enough to deal with an NFL corner that's going to press him. I mean, he's kind of thin. I think that could be a huge issue. I don't think Jeudy is a slam dunk here. I think this is 50-50 how this goes for him, and I really worry about him being able to handle a big physical corner, Sam.
Well, that's where someone like Justin Jefferson might have been a better fit, or CeeDee Lamb in that case, but I think the Broncos were trying to get two different types of receivers. They already have Cortland Sutton, who's a bigger guy and more powerful guy, so I think they were trying to go for Jeudy and maybe diversify their offense a little bit, but again, like I said, CeeDee Lamb is the best receiver in this draft, and they didn't take him. They went with Jeudy instead. I think it'll get better because of this. I just don't think it was optimizing everything they could have gotten out of this pick.
All right, 16, the Falcons, A.J. Terrell. This is a desperation pick. It is horrible, and it doesn't matter because Dan Quinn is going to be fired by midseason anyways. What do you think, Anthony?
A pick solely done for need, and I understand it from that standpoint, but there were better players on the board. I think they reached a little bit for A.J. Terrell, and I think this is a desperation play for the Falcons trying to get this defense better.
All right, Sam, you're a Clemson fan, but A.J. Terrell's a little stiff.
Yeah, he's more built around his physicality than his coverage skills, I would say. He gets blown by faster receivers at times. And I'll say this, I think 16 is very high for him. Like 16 is a good spot for like one of the other two corners in the draft, but for Terrell, it's a little high. Like I was expecting him to go somewhere like between 25 and lower than that. I didn't think he would go this high. So I think this is absolutely a reach just going because they saw their corners going and I felt they needed to get one.
Yeah, I'd have went for a pass rusher if I was them. 17. Nah, we don't need to talk about them. 18, the Miami Dolphins. I'm just kidding, Anthony. CeeDee Lamb. This is, to me, a great pick, except for the fact that I would probably grade it a B because I still think the defensive needs are a little bit more than this, and you still could have got a solid wide receiver in the second round. But I think CeeDee Lamb is the real deal.
Well, Jerry or Dallas, the reports are that they had CeeDee Lamb as the sixth best player on their board. Nobody expected CeeDee Lamb to be there at 17. And I thought they were going to go with the pass rusher Chase on. I thought that would have been the smarter pick. But realistically, are you really going to pass up on a CeeDee Lamb? And if CeeDee Lamb is the real deal, let's say Amari Cooper has another big-time season. And
wait a second. When did Amari Cooper have a big-time season?
Come on. You want to just – can we be serious here?
I am being serious because you can't tell me somebody has a big-time season when they do nothing in the biggest games. CeeDee Lamb will do that. So this is the thing. CeeDee Lamb will do what Amari Cooper should be doing.
What I'm saying is I think this pick of CeeDee Lamb works out, makes Amari Cooper expendable down the line. I'm not sure if it's especially if that contract's front-loaded.
Well, I still think that Amari Cooper has had big-time seasons is crazy. That's like saying Chad Johnson had big seasons. He didn't. He had seasons with big numbers, but you put him in Pittsburgh against the Steelers to win to go to the playoffs, his ass is going to disappear. It's the same thing as what you get from Amari Cooper. But CD Lamb, I think is a great pick. I think I would have probably went with the defensive player, but I would never complain about getting CD Lamb, Sam.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I mean, this is a steal for them if it's not. But, of course, the issue is, again, your defense is suffering right now. And Chase Young was on the board still. I think that would have been the picks. You're not going to take one of the corners at this point. I don't think there's a corner high enough rated to take. But Chase Young was on the board. A.J. Epinesa was on the board. Your Trey Gross-Matos was on the board. So one of those guys maybe could have gone here. But at the same time, I feel if CeeDee Lamb's on the board and you have him that much higher rated than everyone else, take him. Just take him.
Yeah. I probably would have in the same situation. I think the defense would make more sense, but I think me and Sam both think he's the best wide receiver in the draft. That's hard to turn up at 17. What's not hard to turn down at 18 would be Austin Jackson, who I don't even think should have been picked before the middle of the second round. I think the Miami Dolphins overall had a chance to make their team really good almost immediately, and I think they've missed the boat here a little bit, Sam.
Absolutely. I mean, I was writing last night while we were doing the stream, I was writing articles as it was going up for another website, and I covered the Dolphins then for the night. And I'm like, all right, we got 2 at 5. And then you go to Austin Jackson, I'm like, what the heck are we doing now? Like, this is absolutely not the pick you want to go with. And then the third pick, they made it even worse. I think they could have been a team that improved significantly here in this draft, and they didn't. You had the best at this pick. You had the best linebackers on the board. You had the best safeties on the board, and the best running backs on the board. And you didn't take any of them. You took the 5th or 6th or 7th best tackle in this draft class in the middle of the first round. You blew it.
Anthony, you agree or disagree?
With Austin Jackson?
Yeah, and the Dolphins in general for their picks last night.
I think they reached for, I don't mind Tua, but the next 2 picks, I feel like they reached a little bit. My bigger question is why is Josh Jones dropping?
Well, this is the thing, and I've told Sam this off the air. I've been at a lot of pro days with quarterbacks, and the majority of scouts in the NFL are 5'7" and weigh about 290 pounds and know somebody, and that's how they got the job. There's a lot of these teams that really have no clue what they're doing. That's how guys like Josh Jones drop. I think Josh Jones is a project like most of these guys, but Josh Jones is more ready to play right now than Austin Jackson is. And Austin Jackson, to me, I don't know that upper body wise is strong enough to do what the Dolphins want him to do. And then another one, 19, Damon Arnett from Ohio State to the Raiders. That is a huge reach also, Anthony.
Yeah, that was mind-blowing, especially when you had a Christian Fulton and players like that. Jeff Gladney still on the board. A big-time reach pick, and I feel like we saw this last year with Oakland and Mike Mayock and Gruden with Cleveland Ferrell. Nobody had Ferrell going that high and some of their other picks. But they drafted well last year. Most of their rookies were contributors on that team. So I think we're going to overanalyze this, but I'm kind of curious to see how it works out.
All right, another one, number 20, Chase on LSU for the Jaguars. Sam, we'll go to you on this one. My question here is, can he hold up against the run? He only weighs like 250, 255 pounds. I think he's going to be a great edge pass rusher. I don't think this is a bad pick. I just question whether he's an every down guy, which I don't think he's going to be.
That's what I was thinking. He's more of an outside linebacker that you would play in like a Pittsburgh Steelers kind of scheme instead of a true defensive end that you would play in what the Jaguars are doing. He's not going to be a guy you can replace Calais Campbell with because he doesn't weigh that much. He's not that big of a guy. He's not going to handle the run the same way. And then you got him and Josh Allen. Josh Allen, by the way, who had a very good rookie season, but he only weighs 262, 265 pounds. So these are 2 guys who are not going to be super heavy as opposed to guys like Calais Campbell, who's right around 300 pounds, and Yannick Ngakoue, who's also like 250, 260. So you've got a situation now where we got some smaller edge rushers who will do well in terms of getting sacks, but again, can they hold against the run? Probably not.
All right, 21, Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Reagor. What do you think, Anthony?
Another reach pick. I wasn't in love with the Rieger pick for Philadelphia, especially with the Justin Jefferson on the board, who a lot of analysts thought could potentially go as one of the top 3 receivers off the board. I'm seeing comps to a Curtis Samuel, versatile player, a lot of speed, but I feel like they have that with Whiteside and Deshaun Jackson already. They needed to come out of this with a number 1 wide receiver, and they failed.
Yeah, and Sam, I'm going to combine this. So Justin Jefferson would have been a better pick. I don't think Rieger is necessarily a reach. I don't think he's a bad pick. And I will also say this. Doug Peterson obviously knows what he's doing. So that is the other caveat I would use with this. But I think that the Vikings got to steal in the draft because of this, Sam.
Oh, absolutely. I just wrote an article where I said that because I think he's a guy who potentially could be, on some boards, the 2nd or 3rd best receiver. And now he falls all the way down to 22. Minnesota doesn't have to move at all, and they get him, a guy who can do basically a little bit of everything for them. And the Eagles, in my mind, Jalen Rieger is a better athlete and playmaker right now than wide receiver in a sense. So he's a guy who can do a lot for you in the return game. He can do trick plays and stuff like that, but I don't think he's a polished receiver yet. And I think he's probably a wide receiver 2 at most at the moment. If the Eagles took Justin Jefferson, I think he could be the receiver 1 to begin with. So I think it's a very different situation. I do trust the Eagles front office, so I have to wait and see how this plays out.
All right, number 23, Chargers trade up to get Kenneth Murray. They gave up a bunch to do it. Sam, was it worth it?
I think this isn't a bad move. I like Kenneth Murray a lot. I think it's a decent move for them because they have players on that defense at the defensive front. They got Joey Bosa, Linval Joseph, and Melvin Ingram. In the secondary, Derwin James, Chris Harris, Casey Hayward. They were really missing a linebacking group, and they signed Nick Vigil in free agency. And you're very familiar with Nick Vigil, so if you're starting Nick Vigil, you have problems at your linebacking group.
You're going to pick first the next year if you're starting Nick Vigil. How about that?
Yeah, so see, they need linebackers.
They could get Trevor Lawrence, so maybe they should just start him. Anthony, the Saints, Cesar Ruiz, Michigan, center. What do you think? Were you surprised they didn't try to grab a quarterback like Jordan Love?
I had the Saints going for a Jordan Love, and I also had the Saints going for a linebacker. And I know the Chargers jumped to, maybe Murray was going to be the pick if Chargers didn't move up to get him. That's my thought there. But, the Saints, Drew Brees is not long for the league. Maybe they feel like they have their quarterback, but no matter what, you need to keep this offensive line good. The Saints have been a top 10 offensive line for a very long time now, and I think this is going to keep it going.
Well, and Ruiz is a guy that's listed as a center, but I think he's going to start at right guard for the Saints. Sam?
Yeah, I think so too. So they traded up to get Eric McCoy last year as well, I'm pretty sure. So they already took their center last year. They're going to play at guard, but it's a very weird situation because you've got your 2 guardsmen on right and left, Andres Pete and Larry Warford, who are both guys who have made Pro Bowls in the last couple of years. And I know that's more of a popularity contest, but they're not bad guards. So you're in a situation now where you drafted at a position of strength. You have to figure out now who you're going to start, the veteran or the rookie.
All right. Next up, we had Brandon Ayuk, who is a wide receiver from Arizona State. He got signed by got picked by the San Francisco 49ers. I would say this seems like a reach until you look at what the 49ers want to do on offense. With what the 49ers want to do on offense, I think Ayuk is perfect for what they do. Anthony?
Was it worth it for them to trade a couple of picks to move up and get him? Is he really going to change his 49ers offense? And I think that's my question here. Now, they liked him last year. They liked N'Keal Harry a lot last year. I saw that floating around Twitter. I saw the fact that he led his all incoming rookies in yards after the catch, which is something they like to build around in the Kyle Shanahan offense with George Kittle and Deebo Samuel, what they did last year. But if I was the 49ers, I was going to go out and look for a veteran receiver to complement this young skill position. And I don't think Ayuk is that guy. Who's going to be their number 1? Is it going to be Deebo? Is he a true number 1? Is Ayuk a true number 1? Who is their true number 1 wide receiver to pull coverage?
But in the offense that they run, they don't need a true number one wide receiver. They're dominantly a running team. And the thing is this, they may not have a true number one, but they may have 4 number twos.
But that passing game did not get going. And I know Debo was a rookie, but it didn't get going until they brought in Emmanuel Sanders. And it wasn't like Emmanuel Sanders was lighting it up. When he got there, Debo Samuel began to take off. Is it because Debo was getting acclimated to the pro level in the second half, or was it because Emmanuel Sanders, the veteran, was commanding coverage? I still have those same questions after this pick.
All right. I think that maybe what you saw there, why those wide receivers were so limited, was that Jimmy Garoppolo at this point of his career is still a little limited. Sam?
Yeah, I think Garoppolo had some big games down the stretch, but we saw there were times where he disappeared and he didn't pull together like in the Super Bowl. He had issues his own personal game. I think Ayuk's a player who will make an impact as a rookie, but maybe not be a standout. I think I could see Debo Samuel being the guy who really carries the load in the receiving game for San Francisco, and have Ayuk struggle a little bit early on, but eventually develop into a guy who makes a much better contribution as a sophomore.
All right, Seahawks, Jordan Brooks, linebacker, Texas Tech. I like Brooks, but I think Matos would be a better pick here, Sam.
Yeah, Brooks is a very good run defender. That's what I've heard about him. He's a great run defender from everything I've seen. The issue is pass coverage, and Seahawks have trouble with pass coverage at linebacker already. KJ Wright's getting up there in age. He's getting a little older. So is Bobby Wagner. Wagner had, I think, the worst year in pass coverage in his career possibly this past year. So if you're looking at a linebacker spot, it's going to be tough for them if you're playing a 4-3, which is what they played last year, because now you're bringing in a couple guys who don't specialize in pass coverage, which really hurt them last year. At the same time, also, if you don't have Jadeveon Clowney coming back, you don't have an edge rusher next year. You just don't have one. So you don't have a pass rush now.
Well, I think that means maybe they are going to have Clowney coming back if they're doing that. But 28, Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to give this one to Anthony. Patrick Queen, I think this is a great pick. He's from LSU. Athletic. He can go sideline to sideline. This makes the Ravens defense even better.
You know, this is one of the projected picks I got right in my mock draft. I had a linebacker going to Baltimore, and Queen was the one who has been falling to them 9 times out of 10. They needed to upgrade that front seven. There are 3 linebackers that they lost last offseason in Suggs, Mosley, and Darius Smith. That was a big reason why they struggled before adding a Marcus Peters to that secondary, which really propelled that defense. But we saw the holes in the front seven against Tennessee when Derrick Henry ran down their throat. Patrick Queen is a perfect fit and a perfect player for what they're trying to do. They got a lot better with that pick.
Yeah, and I think the next pick, Isaiah Wilson, I think is a little bit of a reach in the first round, Sam, but I think if you want a massive right tackle, which Tennessee needs, I think Isaiah Wilson is actually a good pick for this team.
Yeah, I think Tennessee knew exactly what they wanted, and they went out and got it because you'll lose Conklin. Now you have a hole at right tackle, and they go out and they draft a right tackle immediately, and they fill that spot right away. I think Wilson's a guy who will – coming from Georgia, he's already got some experience in the running game. And we know Tennessee is a team that loves to run the ball with Derrick Henry back there, and then pass is kind of a secondary option in that offense. So I think he's a great fit for the offense. I think he'll make an immediate impact and be a star from day one.
All right, number 30, the Miami Dolphins, cornerback Noah. He's from Auburn. What do you think, Anthony?
Questionable pick, a reach pick. Maybe this is a move that now they can move off of an Xavier Howard because they do possess the 2 highest paid corners in the league with Howard and Byron Jones. If he develops, we'll see. I think it was a reach.
I disagree. I think this is an A-plus pick. I wasn't big on the Dolphins' first 2 picks, but this is a cornerback that I think is great in press coverage. Even though he's a track guy, when you watch him tackle, he tackles well, so he can come up and smack somebody. How about this? I think he will be better than the first cornerback that was picked in this draft, which is Adukwa or whatever the hell his name is from Ohio State. This kid will be better. This is a great pick. I didn't like their first 2 picks, so if you got 3 first-round picks, you need to hit on all 3 of them when you're building the way they are. But I really think this kid from Auburn, if you watch him play, he tackles well. He's going to be great in press coverage. I think this is a better pick than what people are saying. And I think the people that are trashing this pick are people who haven't sat down and actually watched a complete game with this kid playing corner. Sam, agree or disagree?
Yeah, go with you on that. He's certainly the guy who's been lesser known and has been looked at a lot less. You have like guys like Gladney and Christian Fulton have really taken all the media coverage. This guy hasn't gotten any of it. So people have really been overlooking him and kind of just accepting he's going to be a second round and third round guy. And now Miami comes out and takes him, and now it's going to make everyone take a second look at this guy before they actually go out and judge him. I haven't personally, I haven't looked at him as much as I probably should have. I haven't, I'll admit it. But my question is, you think he's going to be better than Jeff Gladney then, right? I'm assuming you think he's going to be better than those guys and everyone left on the board.
I think this. I think there's the possibility here he could be the best guy. I like C.J. Henderson. I like Gladney. Actually, with me, and I think I brought this up, Okudah to me is like the fourth or fifth best guy. I think Okudah needs work. I think Okudah played in a dominant defense in the Big Ten where the ball's not thrown around a lot. I think there's a lot of questions with me with Okudah. I mean, he looks like the real deal, but there's the old saying, looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane. So I'm not saying Okudah will be that. I think Okudah was worth a pick in the middle to the late first round. But I think this kid and Gladney are both better than Okudah. I could be completely wrong, but I'm not. Next up, 31, the Vikings, Jeff Gladney. Sam, you want to go ahead and talk about him? It sounds like you like him.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I think, well, we could say that just going off what you said in the past, this guy is probably a steal at 31, I think. For him to fall as I didn't expect him to go all the way down here, but Minnesota now, it's two guys. You got Justin Jefferson and Jeff Gladney, who I think will go out, start immediately, and make an impact right away for this team. I mean, the Minnesota Vikings lost 3 corners in Mackenzie Alexander, Trey Waynes, and Xavier Rhodes over the spring so far. So they needed a corner desperately, and now you don't have to trade up or move at all to get this guy. So it's perfect for them.
All right. 32 to Chiefs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I know, Anthony, you thought there were better running backs out there. Do you think it's the right pick?
I think it could fit what Andy Reid wants to do. He's getting comped to a Brian Westbrook. I think Andy Reid even said he was better than Brian Westbrook. He can do a little bit of everything. I thought Kansas City was going running back with this pick. I mocked 3 different ones to Kansas City, just not Clyde Helaire, but I liked the pick. I'm not going to I don't have any qualms with it. Right, you're going to eventually have to pay Tyreek Hill. Kelsey, Patrick Mahomes is going to do a contract next year. You have to keep the weapons around him on rookie deals or pretty damn close to it. So I like the pick. It's smart.
Yeah, and in the long run with Kansas City, they need to hope that Patrick Mahomes is going to take a little from the Tom Brady playbook, not playing wise, but in maybe not asking for the most money he can possibly get just so he can possibly win 5 or 6 Super Bowls like a Brady did.
Yeah, you're going to have to hope that, because otherwise, if you're paying him a record deal, you're not going to be able to pay everyone else. And I think this pick fits well with what the Chiefs wanted to do. They got a guy who's very good out of the backfield, got great agility, great moves in short space. I think he's a good fit for the offense. But I also think you're not doubling down on your offensive game, which is what I expected Kansas City to do, because you could fix your defense a little bit, but that's really not the Chiefs' identity. It never has been. You got a defense that makes plays when you need them to, but it's not the primary unit of that team. So doubling down your offense makes sense to me.
All right. Anthony, anything else before we wrap it up you want to talk about?
No, we'll be going live on the FF Face-Off right around 4 o'clock today, looking at the draft from a fantasy football perspective.
All right, Sam?
No, I got everything.
All right. I think T. Higgins should go to first pick in the second round tonight to the Cincinnati.
I would say that, but I don't want Cincinnati to get him.
Why? You don't want him to win? You want T. Higgins to suffer since he won in college?
If he goes to Cincinnati, he will suffer. So
why would he suffer? He's got Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd.
Listen, he'll make me suffer if he goes to Cincinnati. I don't want that to happen.
That's what I figured it was. Hopefully he doesn't go to Pittsburgh, because then he makes me suffer. All right, you can follow Sam at Sam Teets 5, right?
33.
33, same thing.
Yeah.
One of the guys that has a Twitter page has at 5. But, all right, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up, guys. You guys want to do a show recapping the second and third rounds?
Yeah, I could do that.
All right, we'll see. We might be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock. What time's the draft start tomorrow, though?
Let me look. Start tomorrow or today?
Tomorrow.
It starts. All right, tomorrow it starts at noon.
No reason to do it then. Maybe we'll just do it Sunday, wrap it up. Just follow us on Twitter at Grueling Truth. We'll let you know when we're going to be back on again. If nothing else, we will see you Monday at 1 o'clock. So for Anthony Cervino, Sam Teets, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.